Welcome to Fitness by Design. This is the podcast where we engineer optimal health, energy, and confidence for corporate men just like you without having to sacrifice any of your career success or family time. I'm your host, Coach Spencer, and today we have a special guest with us, and that is my client, Adam. So before we dive into it, Adam has been an absolute all-star. We've been working together for almost 2 years at the time of this recording, and Adam is down over 60 pounds in that time. I don't want to jabber on too much about Adam's story. I'm going to let him tell it from his own perspective. So, with that said, let's get into it. Adam, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me and excited to share a little bit about me and the journey I've been on and show you gratitude along the way.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. So obviously, first of all, thank you for coming on. Kind of more of an inaugural. You were on a previous version of the podcast, and you and Ari and I went on for about an hour and a half. So hopefully, we'll be able to cut that down today with only one of you here. But I mean, that said, man, like I just want to turn it over to you. Besides just saying like welcome and thank you for being here, but just start to kind of tell everybody that's listening, like, who are you? What's a little bit about yourself? Like, what does your life kind of look like right now? And what does that look like, especially on the fitness side of things?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm happy to dive into any of the background and stuff too. But sticking with right now, this last couple years has been so much fun and such a great experience for me. Again, I'll elaborate, but I've been up and down my whole life. So the heaviest I ever was, I was at 400 pounds. Got down to 215 at one point, but I was cutting hard and tons of cardio. Went back up over 300, back down to 220, back up over 300. I mean, I've been kind of everywhere. And then happened to meet this random guy almost 2 years ago now, who I finally decided to take a chance and admit that I needed some help. My biggest issue has always been nutrition. And so that was really more of anything what I was looking for was some help with the nutrition side. I know how to work out. I know how to do that. Now, we'll talk about how that's changed too and how much I've learned in actual programming versus just going and doing stuff. Um, but getting in and actually getting the nutrition dialed in, figuring out what I should be eating as far as macros go, um, and really taking the time to learn more about that and how to properly fuel your body and how that actually helps you your body work the way it's supposed to. So that's a quick and dirty explanation of it, and then I'll dive into anything. Obviously, I'm an open book, and I'll share whatever.
Yeah, man, I love that. So, obviously, like it's been a journey. I think you and I just talked, I don't know, last week, 2 weeks ago, and you said to me, you were like, man, I think I said this before, but like, I don't know how, but I have been the healthiest fat guy you've ever going to meet. It's like that proverbial, like, you talk about your journey of like 400 to 215 back up. When we started working together, you were sitting at like 290. Um, you know, before all of like coming into me, like before you joined the program, like realistically, like what was what was going on in your life? Like what were you dealing with? What were you struggling with? That kind of led you to a point of like, hey, this isn't working.
Yeah, I think I was just sick of not liking who I was, not liking what I saw in the mirror. Um, I finally was at the point that like I wouldn't say I was at rock bottom. I wasn't, ready to go do anything drastic or anything like that, but um, finally had a hard conversation, I guess, with myself of like, hey, dumbass, can I cuss? I don't know what your rules are
Yeah,
on this.
absolutely.
Okay, good. Um, hey, dumbass, it's time to go get some help and time to stop doing what you know isn't going to work because I've done plenty of that in my life. I've done plenty of not doing the right things, not focusing in where I should be, both in my exercise and in my nutrition. And it was finally time to go find somebody who could help me dial that in and actually make the changes that need to be made to go get to a point where I start to like myself a little more. I mean, I hate talking about myself, but like personality wise, I'm a good dude. Like people love me, that's great, but I would see myself in the mirror and I didn't like myself. Um, so it finally got to the point where it was just like, hey, okay, yeah, like I don't even remember if I'm being honest how you came across my radar. I think it was via social media. You know, I follow lots of different influencers and different health people, and you popped up and just happened to be the right timing for me to finally take that step and go ask for help, go reach out, go like, hey, let's see what this guy's all about. Who knows whether it'll work or not? You know, you never know, but um, we'll go give it a shot. And there's no harm in a conversation. And that conversation has now led to almost 2 years later, down over 60 pounds. But and we might dive deeper into this here in a little bit. But like overall body composition, I believe is over 100 pounds of difference between fat loss and muscle gained. So that's even a little more impressive. Not that I'm looking for people to say it's impressive about me, but just within the program and what can be done. Um, and it's sometimes I'll have people that'll ask some stuff too, you know, like, oh, have you done it? Is it hard? Is it like, yeah, dude, it's hard. It's not easy all the time, but uh, if you ask me if it's worth it, yeah, 100%. Um, lots and lots of things in my life that have changed over the last 2 years that I think all started with the decision to reach out and ask for help and finally make a difference, make a change in my health.
Yeah, yeah. And I just pulled up that random flash on the side of my face. I was pulling up um your like file on my side um to see from start till your lowest, which is not right now. We did put a little bit of fat on over the last, I don't know, couple months, but that's holiday weight. You've lost like 35% body fat on top of 65 pounds, which is just insane to think about. Um, and it's, I feel like when I think I talked about this a couple weeks ago in a piece of content was like, when people hear your story, like 60 pounds is awesome. And they're like, wow, that's so great. And then you're like, yeah, you did it in 2 years. And they're like, oh, that's not that impressive. And it's like, this has been a journey. Like, especially like you kind of talked about it as like, there was a point in time where you looked in the mirror and you were just like, I don't like who I am. I don't like who I'm looking at. To just a couple weeks ago when we talked and you were like, yeah, I don't really like, I don't have a number on the scale that I want to hit right now. And like that mentality to me just like is like the ultimate like exploding brain, like what just happened? Like how did we get here type of thing, you know?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I totally get it too because I've crash dieted. I've lost a lot of weight in a short amount of time. Um, the difference is this one's sustainable. This is a lifestyle. Like this is actually what I'm doing. This isn't a diet. This is a lifestyle, which I know these are all trigger words and I've heard them forever, but it's the truth. Um, I've done, you know, two protein shakes a day in one meal. I've done 1,200 calories or less a day. I've done hours and hours of cardio. I've done all of it. And the second you stop, you go the opposite direction, right? And this is finally something to me where, yes, there were times I would look at it too and be like, man, I could have probably lost more here. But looking at the graphs that we have of the body fat and the muscle and the weight and the different things, and just looking at overall picture of like, you know, the slow, steady progress is what will actually last. It's what will actually allow me to go live my life and not go back up to 400 pounds. Um, that piece for me is such a. I think that was the mindset shift of it's not just about how quick can I go lose something. It's how can I go lose it and then keep it off, or lose the fat, gain the muscle, or change the mentality. Like there's just so many other pieces that go into it for the long term life goals of being healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that mindset, I think, is again, it's a buzzword. It's the same thing. But it's like that's kind of what it is, right? Is like there is a piece of this that truly just comes down to having the mentality and the ability to say, listen, I'm not going to lose 60 pounds in 6 months. And that's okay because I know that I can lose the 60 pounds and I can do it in a way that I'm going to be able to keep it off this time. Especially for somebody like you, like I've never pushed even 250, let alone 400 pounds. Like, you know, what does that feel like for you? Like, like if you like kind of like go back when you were 400 pounds, if you had said, hey, in 2 years, you can be, at that point in time, it's like you can be almost 300 pounds and like have kept it off. What would like, how does that, like when you think about it in that manner, does that like, how does that change for you versus like now sitting at 225, 230, depending on the day? Um, Looking back even now, just looking at your journey, being like, oh, like, yeah, March of 2023, I was 290 pounds. Like, what does that feel like?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting concept to think about. I think it feels rewarding. I mean, that's kind of that buzzword, I guess, there, but it's just one of those of like, for me, I knew I could do it, but I needed to find a way where it would actually be a lifelong thing. And for me too, I'll take it a step back. Like me personally, of course, I wanted to be healthy. I wanted to do that, but I also am a single father, and so I wanted to set a better example for my son, so that he doesn't have to go through the same things that I went through in life, right? And he's at the age now, he just turned 17, where he plays sports. He's getting a lot more into the athletic side of things, the health side of things. He works out a couple times a week with a trainer in a group, and then doing his sports, practices and trainings and stuff too. And so helping set that example and set that emotion for him to understand how much better life can be if you go focus on these simple things. For me, like that, I guess is one of the bigger things that I'm really proud of in what I've been able to do. Um, so I don't know if proud is the word I would choose. I don't know if there's like just a singular word to go, what does that feel like, but it's definitely an accomplishment. And I'm not done, but it's fun to see my journey through other people's eyes, I guess, too, as people have said things or asked questions or want to know what's happening. But then to go set that example for my son too, to make sure that he can go make his own choices at whatever point, but so that he at least understands some of the things and the importance of protein and different things like that. I have no idea if I answered your question, but
No, absolutely. That's kind of where I was leading was just like, and I remember, God, I don't even know how long ago it was. I think you dropped it in like the group wins chat that you're like randomly, like you came home and you're like, oh, my son made dinner. And it was this like immaculate, like high protein, like good, high quality foods dinner. And you're like, this is weird, but it was awesome. Like,
yeah, yeah, it was like a steak and maybe some potatoes, and I think we had some shrimp at the time, and he designed it all and made it, and it was one of those I'm like, man, this is something that I would go make. Part of that is because that's all we have in the house. It's a lot less of the garbage, right? But just that example and seeing what I'm doing and whether he realizes it or not, that's influencing what he's doing also. Um, I do. I remember that now that you say that. That's funny. I can see the picture in my head.
yeah, that actually I think is a great segue. Is I think that I was going to take this conversation a different way, but I think that you just opened up a door that I think is something that is screw it. This podcast is so anti fitness industry right now. It's not even funny. Um, but it's like the fitness industry is like, go throw away the chips, throw away all the bad foods in your fridge. Like, don't have anything that's tempting. And like you kind of brought that up where you're like, oh, like he cooked that because that was all that was there. But like for you, realistically, like within the last 2 years, like where has that mindset been in terms of that? Like, and be fully honest, like just because I'm your coach does not mean like you have to say it some way or another. But like to me, I'm like, I think that I preach the fact that like, dude, if you want to have a sleeve of Oreos in your pantry because you're gonna have one or two, do it. Because that's gonna be better than you not having the Oreos and then in 3 days binging on a gallon of ice cream, right?
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that, and that's definitely something that you've said over and over. And maybe it wasn't the right way to say that's all that's in the house, but because that's not all that's in the house. Um, but 100%, that's the thing is it's not. This hasn't been a hey, cut this out, hey, cut this out, hey, don't eat this, don't eat this, don't eat this. And I know we've talked about it many times, and I've talked about it with tons and tons of people. Of if you go tell me, hey, you can't eat Oreos, all I want to do is go eat Oreos. And I'm not even that big of a fan of Oreos, which I know controversial, sorry, but um, it's that hasn't been what it is. It's hey, here's your guidelines for what you should be eating calorie wise and protein wise, and then if you go into the full macros, into the fats and carbs also, hit these goals with whatever means necessary. So it isn't hey no beer, hey no ice cream, hey no sweets, hey no bread, hey no whatever. It's no, here's your goals. Go hit those goals and enjoy life. You even said something to me in my check-in after this last weekend of, hey, I want you to be able to go out and enjoy life. Like you've worked hard to get to this point, and that's the whole point of this is to go have that dinner out, go have that weekend out, go enjoy the holidays, go do whatever, knowing that like there's this track to get back into or just to help kind of guide those food choices along the way, but it's never been, you've never said it's restrictive or hey, don't do this, don't do that. It's always been, yeah, here's the guidelines for it, here's your goals. Have fun. Go find your ways to hit it and eat your pint of ice cream at night or whatever it is.
Yeah. So, with that, like maybe I'm the only guy out there that does it. I don't think I am. But I'm sure there's other coaches that do it. But for you, like you tried so many things over the years. When we started working together, was there something, say, in like the first, I don't know, 3, 4 months that you just like it clicked in your head and you were like, this is different. And I know that this is going to work.
Um, yes, I don't know if you were leading me here or not, but the
That,
one of the
that
very
was that
first.
I realized like immediately I was like that was a leading question and I
Yeah.
actually don't know the answer to this. Like that was the worst lawyer decision of my life. I have no idea what your answer is to this question.
I mean, it was one of the first conversations we ever had, though. When I reached out to you, I was eating 1,200 calories a day, trying to drop weight that way. Um, and I think we doubled it. I think we were at 2,400 or 2,300 or something like that right away. Um, and I lost whatever it was, like 10 pounds in 6 weeks or something like that. I don't remember the exact numbers. And it was like, huh, that's different. Because everything has always been restrict, 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 right? Like less calories, less calories, less calories. We doubled what I was eating in a day and set a protein goal. And I dropped, call it 10 pounds in 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever it was. Um, that was definitely one of those like aha moments of like, oh, okay, like this shit might be legit. Like this might actually be the right path. Um, and it's crazy to think that that was almost 2 years ago now. Like I can, I don't remember the first conversation, the whole thing we had, but I can picture where I was sitting. Um, and to think that that was March of 2023 and we're in January of 2025 is pretty insane to think about that it's gone like they were 2 years down the road.
Yeah. So, you know, with that said, like was there hesitation when you got on the call? Like did you know when you came into that you were like this guy's going to try and sell me something and I don't know that I want to buy it? Or like was there any amount of hesitation or just skepticism of like who the fuck is this Spencer guy and why is he in my DMs asking me to get on a call?
I mean, sure, it has nothing to do with you, but it was definitely one of those. and maybe it's an ego thing on my side, like, oh, I've done this before, I know how to do it. Why is this any different than any other fad diet that I've tried, or quick fix that worked for me multiple times in my life and then didn't work for me as soon as it stopped. So yeah, absolutely, there was hesitation. And then going back to what I just said, like when you also said, "Hey, we're going to double the amount of food you're eating every single day right off the bat, and you're going to lose weight," I was like, are you sure?" Like, okay, maybe. And I think I said that to you. I think I was pretty honest pretty quickly there too, of like, "Okay, I'm trusting you. It's weird because I don't know that this is correct, but we'll go give it a shot and see what happens." Um, and here we are 2 years later.
Yeah. So, you know, I guess for me, like, a this is going to be a horrible question because I'm your coach and I shouldn't be asking this question. Realistically, so you just renewed for the year of 2025. We're 3 weeks in, almost to the day. Realistically, do you feel like you could have been like, I'm good, gone out on your own, and still been able to keep and maintain your results?
Um, Maintain, yes. Keep them, I think so, yeah. But I'm not done yet. That's where my mindset is, as far as why I renewed and kept going. Um, I did say, with our 2025 goals, like I don't think the scale is my determining factor anymore. I don't necessarily have a weight goal, but I know I'm not done with my transformation. I know I'm not done putting on muscle, changing my body, that kind of stuff. So do I think I could have used what you've taught me over the last couple years and maintained or stayed pretty close? Yeah, I think so. Um, but know that I would have, I don't know that I'm at the point yet where I'm able to go finish. There's never a finish, but keep working towards that ideal body type or the muscle gain or that kind of stuff.
Awesome. I only asked that because I was just like genuinely curious because like obviously like my goal, and I think I told you this very early on when we were talking, is literally like my goal as a coach is not to just keep collecting your money every month and give you a coaching program. Like there are coaches out there that'll do that. Fuck them. But like that's not who I am. And I think I have been pretty upfront with you, especially if not everybody in the program. Like my goal is I want you to stay in the program because you want to be in the program, not because you need to be here because I haven't taught you how to do it yourself. Right?
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like I've done that. And I think that your answer kind of leads to that is like, yeah, like you could do it. You know enough how to do it. You could figure it out and you would be able to maintain your results or continue getting some for a while. Like I don't think that if you left at the end of 2024 that you would be in a position where you're calling me in July being like, "Hey, dude, I packed 20 pounds back on."
Yeah, I agree. I think that I think I could go, and part of that is you for sure. I mean, a big part is you and your open and honest communication and teaching. Part of that's I love to learn, and I'm trying to absorb as much as I can, and from you and from other sources, and getting some of that, but I also think, like, I don't know, I'm a sports guy, right? I do different things, and when we started working together, I was sitting at a desk for 8 hours a day. Um, but now I help run a baseball facility, right? And so a sports thing of like the best athletes in the world still have coaches. So even if I could go do it on my own or mostly do it on my own, like I'm not at the point where I'm trying to sever ties with something that's working. Like that doesn't seem like a smart decision on my part. Not that I think I'd go back and go get up to 290 again. I don't want to ever be there or think that I will ever go there again, but also why why fix it if it's not broken?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, I guess we've had a long run. Um, you know, realistically, like it's not been all sunshine and daisies. It hasn't been just rainbows and butterflies and constant weight loss. Um, Realistically for you, like, could you pinpoint, and maybe you can't, but like, is there a point that you could pinpoint where you're like, you were just struggling for like a week or two that you just like for whatever reason couldn't break a plateau or couldn't get through a mindset or something, and then ultimately, if so, like, how do you feel like you were able to get out of that and ultimately lands today on this podcast?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is 260. I was stuck at 260, I think, for a couple months. Like it was quite a while.
But yeah,
I mean, that was part of our reverse, I think was during that time too, but um that was tough. That was tough. And I know I've told you, but I grew up as a wrestler, and so I've been on a scale my entire life. And so definitely, have been addicted to that at different points. And to know that I was working, know that I was working out, know that I was doing the right things, and that number was just flat for a long time. That was tough. That was definitely tough. And days in there, not necessarily days where I was like, F this, I'm done, but days of like, God damn it, man, like this has got to break at some point, right? Um, and I think the, I mean, I was just consistent. I didn't stop. I was consistently kept putting in the work and trusting you. And I will also, as I said earlier on, like give you thanks and gratitude also, because I mean, we had lots of conversations during that time where I'd reach out and be like, hey, I'm struggling. This sucks. Help, whatever, and you were always amazing and be like, hey, nope, I get it. Trust me. Like, here's what we're doing. Here's why. And I think that's part of it, I guess, as I'm working through it in my head is like you said, you're not just a coach that's just going to take your money. You're also not a coach that's just going to be like, hey, here's what you're doing. Stop. Like it's, hey, here's what you're doing. Here's why you're doing it, and ask questions. Like, let's have that conversation. Let's have that back and forth. Let me shed light for you on the reasons behind. And then I think at times too, like it's been so great because you've asked my opinion or my thoughts, or like, hey, do you think we should like, how do you feel about this training program? Should we stick with it for another few weeks? Should we switch it up? Hey, how do you feel about our macros right now? How do you feel about our calories? Like, it's not just a here it is, you do it. It's a conversation. It's a mutual thing. You as the coach and me as the one doing it. Like, I think that's one of the biggest things that has helped even through that period of um, struggling there for whatever period of time it was, quite a while, I feel like. Um, but it was the ability to reach out, ask for help, your support, and your willingness to be like, hey, nope, I understand. Here's what we're doing, and here's why. And I think you even at one point, as we are getting closer towards the end of the reverse or whatever, you were like, hey, here's our timeline for it. But if we need to go make a change a little sooner, like we can do that. I think we should keep doing this, but we can go make a change. So just that flexibility and willingness to go hear my input on my stuff, I think is huge too.
yeah, yeah. And I'm even looking back, trying to find where we'd started your reverse. We were So the beginning of your reverse, you were at 2,250 calories at 261 average. Well, 262. Let's round it up. 262 average. We reversed for 3 months, 3.5. When we started your fat loss phase, you were at 3,200 calories, 950 calories more a day. And you were
And I was
averaging
within a pound.
264.
Yeah.
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 2 pounds on average up. And the week before that, you were at 263. Like the last week of the reverse, you went up a little bit. So like almost 1,000 full calories over 3 months. And you gained 2.06 pounds on average. And you actually lost a 1/100th of a percent, or a tenth of a percent body fat.
Yeah. Well, and it was
So
one of those things you said there was like, hey, we're going to add more calories in, which also means we're going to lift a little heavier because you're going to have more calories to go build that muscle. Um, but yeah, that was you kept putting that in perspective and helping like the reminders, and you even did it with me on Sunday or whatever day where you're like, hey, just a reminder of where you came from, and that piece is super helpful too. Of you get stuck in the now and forget about what has happened over the last month, 2 months, year, 2 years. So
yeah, yeah. To peel back the curtain for anybody listening, like we do check-ins inside the program on Saturdays, and I send all the guys feedback on Sundays before the Eagles games, which sucks when we play at 1, but we make it happen. But this week, like Adam's check-in, if you don't mind me sharing it, was
go for it.
basically like it wasn't what was me, but it was like it had kind of undertones of I'm not seeing results and I'm getting a little frustrated, was at least how I kind of took it. And my feedback to him was, yeah, but we're adding calories back in. Look at the journey that you've been on. We're down 60 pounds. Like, yeah, I get it. There's frustration because the scale's not going down, but we've also increased your calories by, I think, 300 or 400 since like the beginning of December. Like, we've increased calories quite a bit. We're eating more food, and the scale's not expected to go down right now, but we're building strength. You're getting more energy. You're building, you're building that strength. You're feeling stronger in the gym. Your energy is going up. Like, all of the things are happening. And so it was a little bit of like, just, again, to peel back that curtain for people is like, this wasn't, you know, hey, we're going to do this. Hey, here's this picture. It was like Adam, I mean, quite frankly, like again, like, and you came back and you were like, no, 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 that's not what I meant. But like, I get it. And I was like, I just want to make sure like you understand, like, that's part of why I'm here is anybody else, if they're trying to reverse diet themselves or just increase their calories or even in a fat loss phase, when the scale's not moving for a week or two, they're like, geez, like this isn't fucking working. But for you, it was like, hey, the scale's not moving. I'm kind like, it's kind of annoying. I wasn't perfect, but like, it's kind of annoying. And I'm like, okay, cool. So just be more consistent this week. We'll be fine. Not worried about
Yeah,
it. If
yeah,
you gain 5 pounds, I would have a different conversation with you.
yeah. And I think, and I told you this too, and I don't. You can share whatever. It doesn't. I'm an open book and have been and always will be. But like, there's definitely a fear in the back of the mind because I have lost weight before and then gained it again. I've never done it this way, right? This is a whole different world. But that slight fear of, okay, am I going to go back the other way again? And I know how easy it would be to go back the other way again because I've done it. Not that this is hard. This isn't easy, but whatever. But like, I know how to do this now, but I also know how to go back up and go get back to 300 pounds. And there's always kind of that fear in the back of the mind, I think. And if you ever watch people that go lose a bunch of weight, whether it's through surgery or whatever, like a lot of them do end up going back and gaining it again. And I think that's part of it is there's that piece of, for me in the back of my mind of like, oh yeah, I'm still that fat kid and could go be that again real quick. So that's an interesting one to work through and to go change my mindset, which is what we shared already of not letting the scale dictate the results. That's a scary one too, because the scale's an easy way to see those results, good or bad, versus trying to figure out what my ideal body is or gaining muscle in the gym because it takes a lot longer to do that. So some of that's interesting too to go figure out how to shift my mindset to some of those things.
Yeah, it's with that, like, I was kind of thinking, like, overall, like, especially the mindset side of it, but like, was, do you, would you be able to say, like, at any point in time where you, like, you truly kind of had this dawning realization of, like, oh, this is like a big shift in what's happening? And like, whether that was the weight going down, whether that was your lifts, whether that was your mindset, like anything like that, where there was like this almost like, you know, dawning moment where you're like, oh, like this is a massive shift in like who Adam is.
Yeah, I think part of it, and this might sound vain or whatever, but like seeing more definition, seeing more of the, as funny as it is, like the shoulder cap to the bicep to the tricep, like things like that, where it's like, okay, my my goals are different. Like what I want is different. Um, and I don't know if that was like a sudden shift, but just seeing some of that kind of stuff, I think has been more of what I have tried to hold on to and become more of where my goals are through how I want my body to look and how I want to feel versus the number I want to see on the scale. Um, Super random kind of funny thing. I don't think I've even told you this. The other day, I was in the shower and I was like soaping or something here, and water pooled right here between my shoulder and my trap and my collarbone. And I was like, huh, there's like an indentation there where it all just used to be like fat pockets and like little things like that that are kind of cool and really help shift that mindset too. Of like, hey, yeah, yeah, it's working. You're headed in the right direction. Um, let's change the metric. Let's change the measuring stick that we're using and try to get away from just that number, because that number is just another metric. That's all it is. Just another way to gauge progress, I guess.
Yeah. 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 You definitely didn't tell me that. You also don't have to hide the fact that you were just flexing for the shampoo bottles. It's okay.
Sure.
It's
It's just
like
got to do what I got
that's
to
been
do. But
the video that keeps popping up on social media is like the Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's like, oh, me flexing for the shampoo and conditioner bottles. um
listen, they're always impressed. That's all I have to say.
yeah. um so obviously like inside of the program every single week we're talking wins, right? We start your check-in form every single week. What's a win? What's a win? What's a win? Because we want to celebrate those wins. One question that I don't think that I have asked you in 2 years: what has been the proudest moment for you of the last 2 years?
Um, hmm, Nothing like putting you on the spot to try to figure out the best thing that's
To be
happened in the
fair,
past
Adam
2
has
years.
no idea what questions I have planned for him today. I did
Definitely did
not
not
send him
get
the
a
script ahead of time.
nope, nope.
There was no prep for him this time.
I mean, as far as like the program itself goes, I think there's two things that come to mind right away. Like simple things, but they make a big difference, right? I cleaned out my closet a couple weeks ago or a month ago or whatever and got rid of a bunch of old big stuff, which is cool. And then just like 2 or 3 days ago, I put on a large sweatshirt that fit. And just for the record, just like at the biggest of my life, I was wearing 5X stuff. And I put on a large sweatshirt and like it fit pretty well. And so simple things like that of like, huh, okay, yeah, that piece is good. Like that's something that definitely helps me a lot and helps keep me going. I guess I don't know that you can really like a win for somebody is their own personal thing, but that's one for me of the way I'm fitting in clothes is huge. It's huge for me and how I keep going and what keeps driving me. Along those same lines, like the way my arms look in t-shirts or things like that. Like it's definitely getting better. Less flaps on the bottom side of my triceps, like things like that. The other one that I have felt really really good about the last couple weeks is we're in a heavy lifting phase right now, and I'm doing multiple sets of bench over 200 pounds. When I was in high school, I think my max was like 305 or 315, and I've never been back up to that strong. Nor do I necessarily need to be, but to go do 5 sets at over 200 pounds for me mentally and just what I do, I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. Like that feels good to go push some weight. Um, so I think that piece of like actual physical results or things like that within the program, those are the first two that pop out. Now in my personal life, if we want to go that way, there's other things too. But
This was just the first half of an amazing conversation, raw and uncut, with my client Adam. So if you want to hear the rest of it, just keep listening. The next episode will start in just a minute.